We don't need a motion to recommence or whatever. We already did this, right? All right, reconvening. We can start with the pledge. We did that before. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will open the meeting with public comment. I welcome anyone who is here to make a comment about any item on the agenda or any other item to please come to the podium, state your name and address, and make your comments. And if you could keep them to approximately 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, my name is Kathy Sisker, and I'm the chair of the North Andover Historical Commission. And I would like to make a public comment about the Stevens Estate and all what's been going on. The commission held a meeting after our last meeting, which was last Monday, after the public comment at our own meeting. And we have decided and voted that we would ask, and I do see it's on what you call consent items, to withdraw Article 8 from the warrant. That would be our suggestion to the Selectmen for a number of reasons. The first one is the confusion. There is still so much confusion about exactly what is going on with Stevens Estate. On the one hand, we have from the town manager, we have what she says is going on, which, to put it bluntly, is that the Stevens Estate is not making a profit, it is going down the tubes, et cetera, et cetera. Then today, and I'm sure most of you saw the letter, there was a letter in the Eagle Tribune. Anybody see it? Yes. Okay, from the manager, I shouldn't say manager, from the chairman of the Stevens Estate Board, and he says just the opposite of what the town manager says.
I just want to clarify.
Yep.
That is not at all what the letter says. The letter in the third column of the article clearly says as well that this year it is not running a profit, which is consistent with what our assistant town manager, acting town manager, has said in public. I've seen the same thing repeated on social media. I suppose I can pull it up and quote it unless you have the letter in front of you.
I have the letter right here.
So in the third column, he concurred. He just disagreed about the actual number. He did say that it was not running a profit as well this year.
Well, to be perfectly blunt, why can't everybody get on the same page so we know what we're discussing? It's very frustrating to hear this, and I'm not going to say that he's fibbing or whatever, according to him, and I understand what you're saying, but he's saying the exact opposite. Where is the truth?
No. I did not say that, Mr. Willow, because I know he's here, I did not at any point say that you were fibbing. I didn't say that what you said was in conflict with the town manager.
I'm sorry, that's not your language. It's mine, and maybe it was a wrong misuse of words. But there is confusion. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of people are very upset. Not only that, the commission did not know about this, and I'm not going to go into it again, until probably the beginning of April. If this had been more transparent way back when the first RFP went out, which I believe was in autumn of 2018, all this could have been gone through in a logical and legal way. We would all understand both sides, and then people and the citizens of North Andover could then make a thoughtful decision on which way they wanted to go. But that wasn't the case. And quite honestly, the commission...
I just take exception with that.
Go right ahead.
Every one of those had to be discussed at a public meeting in this room, and it was. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and maybe you didn't hear about it until April, but every step of the way, we have to talk about it in a public meeting. We can't do it other than in a public meeting. So the RFP was discussed in a public meeting. The financials have been discussed in a public meeting. The articles for town meeting have been discussed since January, since the warrant has been crafted. It's all been discussed in a public meeting. And I appreciate that you may not have heard of it, or you may not have gotten a notion of it until April. But to say it hasn't been transparent is not really doing a justice to this board, because we have, and it's always had to be. It's the open meeting law. We have to discuss it in public.
I would also just add to that since 2016, it has been in the budget and policy statement of the Board of Selectmen that the Stevens Estate needed to be reviewed to A, conserve the land around the building, and B, sell or lease the building, because it was never the long-term intention to have that be an event facility ran by the town for ad infinitum. It was supposed to go back actually in 1997, and it didn't for whatever reason, but that's way long history. But I looked back, and since 2016, the budget and policy statement of the Board of Selectmen specifically states that that is our objective and what we wanted to work towards for the last 3 years. So that is voted on in town meeting. That's part of the budget process. So it has been talked about for a long time, and everyone, I don't understand how people aren't aware of that.
Nobody, absolutely nobody. I will say, I'm not saying that you did not do that, but I have been on the commission for 30 years. Anytime something came up, I got an email from either Ray Santilli or somebody on the board, it was a selectman, and said, Zing, you might be interested in this. It has to do with the history of the town, and, this is what we're discussing. I have to tell you, quite frankly, and I don't go every week through the agenda of the selectmen. I just don't. I don't know any citizen that does that. But however, if I knew that there was something going on, I might say, oh, I heard, this, and I think we should look at the agenda. But I don't know anybody, and honestly, I don't feel like I'm even offering an excuse for myself. I don't go through everybody's agenda every week. If I know that there is something going on, then I start to go through. But to have not even a whisper of anything, I mean, people didn't know anything.
Madam Chair, can I?
Public, we're on television, it's been discussed quite a bit. Now, just to,
But why would we never know? Why would we never?
Madam Chair, and I mean this, we have the same goals. I think I disagree, and I hope that I want to preface my next comment with, we have the same goals. But one of your board members on March 14th emailed me and said that you discussed this at your March 11th meeting. And she emailed me asking questions about this. You didn't find out in
March
April.
11th?
Yes, you have, with all due, and I hope you don't mind me quoting, however, it would be a public record. Ann Erickson, who's a member of your board, emailed me and said that you discussed this on March 11th.
That's the first that we heard of it. Totally right.
So not in April, and so since March 11th, we had at least three public meetings where this was on the agenda. And Ms. Siska, even you and I ran into each other in person. We have the same goals, and we've talked about it this evening. Our goal is not to bypass you. We want to include you in the process every step of the way. I just want you to know that the intention of this board was never at any point to exclude anyone. And I know that in my heart, but I shouldn't speak on behalf of my colleagues in that way. I can say that I know my colleagues and myself. I think you know us all pretty well. That was not our intent. Our email exchange, I think that I was pretty quick, Ms. Erickson, in responding to you. There were no follow-up questions, and there was no request for us to come to the Historical Commission. I saw you sitting there, and I remembered, I'm like, you and I communicated about this back in March via email. And so there was no intention on any part of this board to hide this from anyone and not involve you.
I'm not accusing anyone of hiding. Obviously, it was in the newspaper, and as you said, and it was on the agenda. It's just inconceivable that the most historic thing that the town owns, and no one even shot us an email to say, you might be interested in this.
Your point is well taken. We could have been a little bit better and notified boards that we think would have had interest beyond just putting it on an agenda. I think your point is well taken, and
Okay.
I think we need to be more careful going forward.
Did you not think it was odd that we never contacted you people? That we never came to, the most significant thing in town?
Because my goal is to protect. I don't want to compromise. And I think that's perhaps why none of us thought of it, because anything that we do is completely consistent with what your mission is, protecting the historic nature. It is just going. Now, that being said, though, I hope that your patience with us hasn't expired and that you're willing to participate with us moving forward, because I think that you saw. I've been on the Board of Selectmen for 4 years, and never once can I recall 4 of the 5 of us attending a public meeting the way that we did the other night. And we were clearly very eager to hear your feedback the second it was brought to our attention that you wanted to provide feedback. So I hope that you work as a partner with us to make sure whatever we do, even if you whatever we do is done with the best possible information from the Historical Commission.
I agree. Your board's input is very important to us. We are one of the oldest towns in the country, frankly, and we do need to protect our history and our buildings. And so
Okay.
I agree with you. We're going to have to be a little bit better. But under the circumstances, there's a lot going on. But we will get there, and we will.
And I'll just reiterate what Mr. Calogero said. None of us here want anything to happen to the Stevens estate. That's never the intent of this board. There's no undercurrent, there's nothing like that. It's really, how can we best preserve the Stevens estate? That's the question at hand here. It's not that we want anything harmful to it. We want to know how we can best preserve it. And that's what we're under discussions on. How can we ensure that the Stevens estate is around for generations to come?
Okay, well.
Great, so let's let you
We're
continue
moving
your
forward,
comments.
okay. Moving forward, the commission would like for you to consider withdrawing Article 8. We have no problem with Article 7. We understand that's conservation land. That's a win-win, not only, for the drinking water, et cetera, et cetera. We have no problem at all with Article 7. We would ask that you consider withdrawing Article 8. There's been an RFP, I understand, which came in on May 1st. We have no idea what's in that. So I think that by withdrawing Article 8, it will restore some confidence to the 40 or 50 people that were at my meeting about a week ago, and it will give people, not only the Historic Commission, but there's a group that are friends of the Old Center Historic Commission. There's a lot of history groups that overlap, and I think it would give all of us, not just the Historic Commission, but all those groups a chance to go over the RFP, to discuss it from all angles, and to hopefully decide the best way to go forward. So I would respectfully ask that you consider withdrawing Article 8. I think there's no way between now and 2 weeks that everybody's going to find the time and have the ability to go through. We don't even know what the new RFP says. It's like putting the cart before the horse. So that's why I would respectfully ask you to withdraw Article 8, and hopefully we will all move forward with the best intentions for the citizens of North Andover. And once again, I'm sorry I was upset, but I was. I mean, in past years, I always got an invitation. This is coming up. Maybe your commission would like it. And of the biggest building and historic building the town owns, we never heard a peep. It was rather disappointing, to say the least. So in my closing, I'm just going to say,
Encouraging way, if you do hear of things that we have on our agenda, I know that you said it many times last week. I mean, I know that we love to hear, it works both ways, and we do need a
I
contact.
agree, but we
so-
didn't know.
But
I would have come. I did not know.
But at the last historical commission meeting, you had
Yep.
said that you had known about this for several weeks. I just want to, I'm not belaboring this point, but more the general. I would always love to know. I want you to always feel comfortable giving me a call, and I think that applies to the entire board, the town manager's office, contacting us if ever you have any questions or there is an issue brought up that you feel like we should be included. I'm glad that so many of us attended the other night. I'm glad that we got
It was
to
a
hear that
great show
feedback.
of people that are concerned about the future of the Stevens estate.
But
It truly is.
I wouldn't have known about that if it weren't for Kathy Stevens reaching out to me and saying, hey, this meeting's happening, because I know, again, apply what you said earlier about having to follow every board's agenda.
You can't do that.
We try to. I
I
try
know,
to.
but it's difficult.
No
And
one reached out to me on it, I read it. I read the
Well,
agenda.
I will tell you one thing. The history people in this town work together. The Historic Commission works very closely with Carol Majahad, who's the director of the North Andover Historical Society. What we did to get as many people in the know then, we used their email. We sent out an email blast through the North Andover Historic Society's email, which reached about 200 or 300 people. So we have avenues that perhaps you don't obviously have. So that's why I think the meeting was so well attended. We have other avenues that we can send out email blasts to. And I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought, and I'm not sure where I'm going here.
I think the point is we put you on there because there's no better advocate, I think. I mean, you've been a cheerleader for preserving our town's history for decades. And I think you're a valuable resource. And so I hope that even if anything ever falls, whether it's Stevens Estate related or anything else, I mean this in a positive way, it works both ways. Let us
Exactly.
know as well, too. I mean,
Exactly.
I definitely value that opinion.
And just to make it perfectly honestly, it's not even that we have to agree. It's the fact we didn't know about it. I mean, I have been to many a meeting where the selectmen did not agree with the Historic Commission, and you know what? That's fine, but at least we had a voice. I think that's the part that drives me crazy the most, that we knew nothing. It's not that we don't agree. That's democracy. That's the way things go. It's the fact that we knew nothing. I understand what you're saying, that you had it in the newspaper and it was on the agenda, and I don't know if I'm using this as an excuse or whatever, but people's lives are busy. I don't go every week, and I'm sure most people don't go every week and say, oh heavens, just for the heck of it, I'm going to look at the agenda and see if there's anything about the history. People don't do that. They only do it when they know that there is something. They only do it when they say, you know, I heard such and such, let's see if the selectmen are talking about X, Y, or Z. That's usually the way it works. People don't go every week and go through the agendas of all boards just to see, per chance, should something be there that is pertinent to what their commission is or their interest or whatever. That's all I want to say about that, okay?
Again, I think your point is well taken, and we'll try to work on a mechanism that, you know, whether it would be one of the assistants in the town manager's office who would pick that up, whether it be your board or another, and just shoot them an email.
Just
But,
an email, that's it. That's
I mean,
all
well,
it would require.
I think you're right, and I think we can try to do better.
Okay.
But you know there's a way to subscribe to the agendas, right?
I'm sorry?
There's a way you can subscribe and receive the agendas in your email. I mean, the agenda is only a page long. And
Right.
you could just scan it. you know.
Right, right.
But you can subscribe or unsubscribe to any agenda in town, and you'll get it automatically.
Okay.
Just so you know. I don't know if you
Well,
know.
I mean, for tonight's meeting, I did get an email. That's why I'm here. I got an email from Lori,
Thank you,
and
Lori.
she said, I wanted to let you know that we're discussing this. That's usually what happened in the past 30 years. It didn't happen in the last year, to tell you the truth. So, thank you, and thank you for listening to me. And as I said, going forward, I do agree with Phil. Our goals are the same, to do the best for the citizens of North Andover. That's always been the Historic Commission's aim. And I don't mean to polish my commission's halo, but we've done a damn good job for the past 30 years, I do believe. And hopefully we will work together, and something of this magnitude or issue won't happen again, hopefully. Thank you very much, and as I said, we would urge you to withdraw Article 8. We hope you would consider that. Thank you.
Hi, Tracy Wakeman, 36 Pilgrim Street. I just want to follow up and say that as a function of the selectmen, it behooves you to reach out, to do your due diligence, and think that the Stevens estate may be something that the Historic Commission should be involved in terms of their discussion. I have no involvement with the Historic Commission. She doesn't even know me. But my point is that your due diligence should have brought it to your mind that this needed to be discussed with them. Solely my comment. One other comment, just kind of saying, when you give somebody 5 minutes to speak, they should have 5 minutes to speak before being interrupted. I think it led to, unfortunately, a little more frustration than needed. Thank you. That's it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, so Kevin Willow, 24 Skyview Terrace. I'm the chairman of the board. So at the end of the day, you know, whatever happens with the estate, we support. There's two problems that we have. One is that I shouldn't have to write letters to the editor to clarify the financial situation of the estate. So all I ask is that the information's accurate. Let people vote with accurate information and complete information. Yes, we're probably going to lose money this year. There's still debate on how much. That's unacceptable. You can't run a business not knowing if you're going to lose and how much. And long-term, we've made money. So I'm okay with whatever happens. Citizens should vote, but they should have the information they need to make a decision, number one. Number two, if the article's withdrawn or if the bid fails, we need to stop talking about moratoriums because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that we will then fail. We're having brides backing out now. We're having people who aren't going through with tours. If we're going to not outsource the estate or sell the building, then we need to decide if we're going to run it, we're going to run it and be committed to it so that we can continue to run the business successfully. Again, the board, you know, everybody has their personal opinion. My opinion is just get the facts out and let people make a decision. And whatever that decision is, I'm fine with. I'm not looking to preserve my position on the board. I'm looking to just get the facts there to have people make the best decision. And if we're going to run it, let's run it successfully, let's get the town behind it, and let's run great events that we can continue to make money off of. Because we don't have a lot of exit strategies if we don't run it, or if somebody doesn't outsource or buy it. So let's just be open to all those ideas with the facts. That's all I ask.
Any other comments? Okay. We will move on. First item is approval of minutes from our April 23rd meeting.
Madam Chair, motion approval of the minutes as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, governmental reports. We have first up an update on the Columbia Gas settlement.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to defer to Town Council, who worked with the three communities, all worked together with the attorneys and Columbia Gas attorneys to get the settlement for the town, and Suzanne will give a brief summary over that.
Yeah, so I worked with the former town manager, Andrew Mailer, who was continued under contract with the town in order to continue the discussion with Columbia Gas, Andover, and Lawrence to reach a resolution for the payment of the town of North Andover's claims against Columbia Gas, and that agreement has been reached. It was basically basically a formulaic settlement as to the claims of the town for the cost of any damages and cost in responding to the gas disaster, and also the cost and expense of repaving and repairing any of the streets, any of the public streets that were affected by the replacement of the gas mains. And so there was a total amount of the settlement for the town is $15,855,000, and that includes all of the costs and expenses to the town, and any future claims to the town.
You can hear that sound. Could you say that? You could not hear it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, you have to really talk loud. You feel
Oh,
like
sorry, I
you're
keep thinking the
yelling.
microphone works.
Yeah, you
It
have
doesn't
to-
project my voice. Okay, so what I was saying is that the settlement with the Columbia Gas was for all of the costs and expenses that the town incurred in responding to the gas crisis, and also any costs and expense associated with repairing the streets that were damaged due to the gas lines, so when they did the gas line replacement. And the total of the amount is $15,855,000. The town was wired today, which we'll probably receive tomorrow or the next day, to $12,950,000, and then the rest of the money will be provided to the town once we submit this particular invoices and costs and expenses to Columbia. Then will be reimbursed in that manner. And so,
So you said that we are going to be wired $12,950,000?
$950,000.
Okay, you said 950. That's okay. That's why I asked the question, because I thought that's what you meant. And that's coming probably tomorrow?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay. Thank you.
And we have already received the $450,000. So that really brings our total amount going to be received from Columbia Gas to $13.4 million. I believe that's right. Always have to check my math.
Through tomorrow.
Through tomorrow, yes.
13.4.
Yep.
But the grand total, again, is $15,855,000, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
$855,000, yes.
Okay, and when will the remainder be?
So the remainder will be paid to the town through a process of, we're going to be submitting our invoices and for the costs and expenses to the town, and they're going to be reviewing those and paying the town for that amount.
So Suzanne, this money can only be used on the roads that were impacted by Columbia Gas, hypothetically, if we were, that's not just a blank check. I just mean that's not a blank check that could be used outside of the impacted neighborhoods unless the cost is genuinely associated with a general service, correct? I guess the point is that I want that neighborhood to know, those funds, if we're spending them on any type of infrastructure
So-
improvements, are
So a particular portion of the settlement was for the repaving costs. It's a curb-to-curb repaving of the streets that were affected, that had the so if you look at the streets now, they're sort of trenching through the streets where they replaced the gas lines. And so that portion, which is, it's approximately 10 million, I'm just going to give you that approximate number, it's going to give or take some of that. That is for paving. That is for the cost of doing the repaving on a curb-to-curb basis of the public streets affected by the gas disaster.
Everyone that was torn up, excuse me.
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
The ones that were affected, there's, right.
As well as Grogan's Field.
Yes.
Well, so let me just be specific. So that 10 million plus or minus is for the repaving of those streets affected by the replacement of the gas mains. Those are the public streets affected by the gas mains, that the town is going to undertake that work and complete it. And that's the plus or minus 12 million. Now, there's an additional amount of the settlement, which is approximately $4 million, that's going to be used for, that is to compensate the town for the other costs and expenses and damages associated with the Columbia gas disaster.
Like Grogan's Field.
Like Grogan's Field.
Yes.
Yep.
And this will be, I don't know, do you want to wait till when you, or do you want to speak to it now, that this will be in a dedicated account?
Right.
So part of what,
Go ahead.
okay, so what is on the town meeting warrant articles are two articles. One is to create the capital account for the paving funds, and so that can then be used for all the costs associated with the repaving. And then there's a second article, and that is for the expenses related to other sort of restorative costs, soft cost related to the disaster. And that's where the remaining amount. And then Lynn can speak. I mean, if we need to get into accounting, but that's sort of the big picture of how that works. And then there's the pieces that will go directly to account for the expenses related to it. Like just funnels right to balance that out.
Now, I know the answer to this question, but I thought I would ask it so it would be available to the public. So these funds were prorated by each community.
So as a part of the negotiation, all three communities negotiated this together. As a part of the negotiation, what we did is they essentially looked at it in terms of the miles of road and on the basis of the cost of repaving in each community and sort of the impact and the cost of expenses. So it was looked at as a 50, the split is 50, 30, 20, with Lawrence has the 50%, Andover 30, and North Andover 20. And that's on the basis of the miles of the roads impacted, the costs and expenses associated with the disaster.
Obviously, you with the other negotiators, with Andrew Mailer, and all agree that this is a fair breakdown of which communities.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. This is fair. So
Covers all our expenses.
20% absolutely covers ours. And what it also does is, so in any type of, when you're looking at a claim, you think, are there going to be future expenses associated with this? And so there is a portion of it that is related to any future expenses that we may have. And we don't know what those are now, but there's always that possibility of what there are, that some could arise. And so that's part of also what we recovered. And yes, it was viewed on the basis, it's very, so whenever you have a claim like this, it's all related to hard facts, right? What's the miles of streets that need to be repaved? What are the costs of expenses? And that's where the formula of the 50, 30, 20 was derived.
Obviously, all communities are in agreement. You've got a press conference tomorrow.
Yes,
so-
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Any other questions for Susan?
No.
Okay.
I would say thank you very much for your very hard and diligent work on this negotiation. I know you were instrumental in getting us to this point, and obviously we've thanked former town manager Mailer for staying on in the consulting capacity to help us get to this point. So well done.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Next up is an update on the Stevens estate. So, we received a bid, as you referred. We were past the deadline. We received the bid. We discussed that in our executive session. We think it's promising, and we want to carry forward with discussions on that bid.
Well, with the understanding, Madam Chair, that in order for us to continue discussions, we would have to accept the bid. And so I would motion that we motion approval of the acceptance of a bid from Elegant Banquets, with the understanding that this motion is a request to continue and pursue discussions, and not an authorization for any type of transfer of property at all.
Maybe say it louder, and it's a
So,
little buzz in the back that you.
so for where we are in the process, in order to even discuss the bid, we have to accept the bid. And so the acceptance of the bid, my motion again is motion approval to accept the bid from Elegant Banquets, which is the applicant, but with the understanding that this is simply an exercise in being able to pursue further discussion and does not in any way authorize the town to transfer property in any way.
And this ties into what you were talking about. We want input from your organization, the Stevens Estate, and any other interested parties. This is just to.
Let's get a second and then discuss
Okay,
and
second.
point all that out
Okay.
in the discussion.
I'll second it.
Just
and
to be
then-
proper.
And I'll throw that on.
Second, okay, so now up to a discussion. I mean, you could carry on with the point. The point is, for public procurement laws, we have to formally accept a bid in order to release it to the public, and we want to, as you suggested, have discussions with your commission and others to the board of the estate, the board of trustees for the estate, to get input, discuss, and get to a point where we can make a proposal in front of town meeting. So
that would
that's the
include
point of this
Conservation and everything. I mean, this is where we hope to make it up to your organizations with full transparency, and frankly, we need your help to review it and see if it makes sense. So I hope that will relieve some of your fears and concerns, as you rightly put, and we're working really hard to honor that, and any other interested parties. So I think this should be a really good effort on the entire town to move forward. I think Kathy Stevens said it very well at your meeting, and she is a descendant of the Stevens family, saying she wants what's best for the estate, what, under the right set of circumstances, maybe it is for us to put it in the hands of somebody else, but as long as we have restrictions, but we don't know that yet. The town might decide that we want to keep it. So we just need to have that discussion. But we really, I think, it's part of our job as due diligence to explore all options to see what's right for the estate and the town and vice versa. So we certainly do want your input and that of others. And if I've misspoke or spoke on somebody else's behalf that you differ, please say something. But
Yeah,
So-
that's exactly the case.
Are you going to discuss the actual RFP right now? Are you at liberty to do that?
we can't
No,
right now.
we cannot.
You can't, okay.
We have to
soon.
accept it, then we can move into discussions about it. So we have to go back to them and notify them that we accept their bid, and then we can open discussions, and you will be contacted in short order after that to
In short order,
start
so keep it
discussions.
going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd just like to go back into history. I think many of us in this room remember the night we voted for that. The town was in financial trouble, and people came, they sat through that meeting, and they voted themselves an override to protect that property. We get that, so we understand how important it is to everybody in this room, and I think we all want the same thing, but we might be looking at it from different, but I think,
But since you raised the point, the vote specifically says, as I went back and read the 1994 article, and it specifically talks about the fact that no other taxpayer dollars will be used to maintain the estate, that it would be, or to run the estate, that it would be self-funding. And I think that's the question that has come up of, I don't think anyone disputes what Mr. Willow stated, which is in prior years, 6 years ago, they got it to a profitable point, and it had a small profit, I won't say huge profit, but it had some profit over a number of years. But this year, it's projected to not be profitable. Next year, we don't have the bookings, we don't have long-term bookings that we would need. And even if we did, even if we had a small profit, we don't have the amount of money that we would need to make the necessary investments in long-term capital improvement. And the point of the original article is it should be self-funding. It should continue to support itself. And it's not on track to do that. So the question is, how can we best preserve it? What is the best avenue to preserve it? So I think it was stated before in response to your public comment, but this board absolutely wants to preserve it. That's the goal. The goal is how best to preserve it. What's the best way to do that? So. It's really not the time for public comment, honestly, at this point. We will have ample opportunity for discussion on what this bid looks like after we accept the bid and we enter discussions. So, and I think we'll have lots of public meetings on that, and you will be involved, others will be involved, and get to say what they think the terms of the deal should be if we were to go through it. So, we had a motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. On to consent items. Vote to schedule a special town meeting for June. So we have heard from Mr. Smolak about the proposal. Sorry, I'm trying to just get the agenda in front of me for this discussion.
I can give you my paper.
No, sorry. We've had the discussion with Mr. Smolak and Hillwood about the request, their opportunity at 1600 Osgood, and they've put in a formal request for a special town meeting to discuss the zoning changes that would be required for that project. I think we've worked internally with town staff and the applicant have worked together on and as well the planning board to come up with a calendar of timeline for the planning board meetings, public hearings that would be required. So now we're here to discuss the timing of that town meeting. I don't know if you guys want to make any comments further to that point.
Well, just briefly, John Smolak, attorney for Hillwood. With me is Gary Frederick, Senior Vice President of Hillwood Enterprises. Just as a follow-up to our meeting a couple weeks ago, we've since met with the planning board on an informal basis, and we'll be back before them tomorrow evening as well, to further discuss the proposed zoning changes that would be part of a special town meeting. And I can't speak for the board, but I think we're progressing very well in terms of these proposed zoning changes. And so, again, we're still very excited about the opportunity that we have here and appreciate the board's willingness to consider a special town meeting, and hopefully we can schedule one in the short term.
Yep,
Thank you.
If you're ready, I'm happy to move it.
So, yes, you have a motion?
Madam Chair, move that the Board of Selectmen schedule a special town meeting for June 18th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the auditorium at the North Andover High School.
Any further discussion? I think we're all excited about this opportunity and hope this aggressive schedule will, right. I think that's clear. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Look forward to a special town meeting. Next item, we have the reappointment. Sorry, I'm looking at an old printed copy. I got to stop doing that. Reappointment of Joseph LeBlanc as the Veteran Services Director. His term's expired, and we just want to renew that.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Joseph LeBlanc as Veteran Service Director for the term ending June 30th, 2021.
And I will second that. He's doing a marvelous job.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. I think Joe's doing a great job
He
and
is.
taking care of our veterans and being accessible and really,
Being out there, so
yeah.
people know about, yeah, he's great.
All right. We had a motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is discussion on the town meeting Article 8, and I will actually suggest we include 7 in that as well. So we've heard from Ms. Ziska about the request to withdraw the article. I think that that makes sense. Obviously, we've all said that we want ample time to review the bid, get the public input to the bid. So I would certainly entertain a motion to withdraw Article 8. Well, I guess we can't formally withdraw it, but just so that our opinion is known, and then we will do it on town meeting floor because we can't open the
So would you like
warrant.
me to make a motion, or just, we're just
I would
stating?
like to just repeat, or I guess explain a bit about Article 7 first, just for the public. The
Okay.
fact that
Yep.
we kind of view 7 and 8 as going hand in hand, and while people might say, well, let's just go ahead with 7 because it conserves the land, we want to be sure if we do have this bid and we're reviewing this bid, exactly what the lot line might be, and we wouldn't have an opportunity to go back and change it later. So is it a little bit here, is it a little bit there? It just makes sense to do those two articles together so that we have the appropriate lot line.
Are we allowed, I know we discussed the idea of doing this with Article 8. Are we allowed to do this with Article 7 at this meeting, or can we do it? I agree with you. I agree that we should withdraw it. I just don't want there to be any question about the process we follow. So I don't know if there's, I think that they go together, but the word article at 7 doesn't appear on our agenda, so I just don't want there, I don't want there to be any question about that decision. We could do it just right before that town meeting, because we meet beforehand.
We should. I think we
But-
should vote on it at your Board of Selectmen's meeting before town meeting, that's what you intend to do at town meeting. And the reason for it, of course, is again, if the lot line has to change just a little bit, not drastic, we're not taking away the 130 some odd acres.
Maybe it's even putting more in
More
the
into the
conservation, like, we don't know,
conservation.
right?
It's just, the lot line could have to be moved slightly, and we can't change that once we've voted and moved it into conservation. So we want to make sure, once we review everything, and everybody's all on the same page, and, you know, we take one more look at the lot lines and make sure that they're accurate, whether it be moved a little bit here or there, but nothing drastic. But nothing can be changed after.
So, no. So my motion, I would move that the Board of Selectmen make a motion to withdraw Article 8 from the floor of our annual town meeting, and with the intention of placing it on the agenda of our special town meeting. I would also request in that motion that we place on our next scheduled meeting agenda to do the same with Article 7. But that's a request that it be on our agenda. So I guess that's more just to assuage. So I made the motion. I guess I'll wait till it's seconded before I discuss. Second. So the reason why I did it that way is because our agenda only has Article 8 mentioned on it, but I think that any discussion about the Stevens Estate property, where the lines still are being clarified for legal reasons, whether it's going to move a few feet this way or that way for plotting purposes, I think the intention is to make sure that any discussion we have about the Stevens Estate we have in its entirety, and not some this night and some a month later. I think I hope everybody would see the benefit of passing Article 7. That doesn't seem to be any disagreement on that. But that's why I made that motion that way, because in fairness, we didn't put Article 7 on the agenda this evening.
Yeah.
So my motion is to request that the board withdraw Article 8 from town meeting with the intention of placing it on the special town meeting agenda on June 18th.
You think that's enough time?
Well, let's discuss that later. We're not placing it tonight because we have to open the warrant in order to place it. So he's saying that's the intention. We may,
We'll see.
we'll see. We hope that would be the objective, because we don't want, if this is a good bid and everyone loves it, we don't want it to get lost because of that. So we'll work aggressively on the bid when we can. But the motion is to withdraw the Article 8 from the May town meeting warrant, which we will do on the floor of town meeting because we can't do it now. And the meeting before town meeting on May 14th, we will make the same recommendation on 7, just because we can't do it.
7 will be on the
We meet, is that right?
Yes.
You're withdrawing both.
No, we will,
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we'll explain to you, we'll explain after. Okay, so motion made and, did I get a, yes, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion amongst us? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Any opposed? Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we table the renewal of the appointment of acting town manager until our May 14th meeting prior to town meeting.
Yes.
Second?
Do we need to vote on this deferral? Wait, sorry,
I did
what was your
a
motion?
motion to table it until.
Table
our
it,
May
yeah,
14th.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Madam Chair, motion move into licensing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, we've got just a couple of items tonight. First is a request of Butlers and Bars for a one-day all alcohol license for weddings at Small Lake Farms on the 25th, May 25th, from 4 to 10. And Tim?
Good evening, I'm Deborah Ingalls, owner of Butlers and Bars. I live 199 Oakland Avenue, Methuen, Mass.
So there was some request. This is actually also for June 1st and June 29th, right?
Yes, I was wondering why my other ones weren't
Yeah,
listed, okay? 'cause-
Somehow it
okay.
didn't make it on our
All
written
right.
agenda, but I see it here. And there was a request regarding police detail.
Yes, a waiver of a police detail. I've been handling the bar service at Small Lake Farms for the last 4 to 5 years. I've never had a police detail present. It's the first time that this year that we're getting, as I'm submitting my licenses, that I'm getting requests that we need a police detail. These are private events. These are not open to the public. And we're asking for a waiver for all police details at these private events at Small Lake Farms, if it's possible to have that.
And it sounds like this is a requirement in our licensing, that such requests have to be made for every one of these events, that we baked it into our licensing requirements, but we reserve the right to be able to waive it, and they've not previously had these.
Yeah, I've never had, I'm going to tell you that I've been there the 5 years, never, ever had an incident of any kind. We run a very strict program the way we run it at Small Lake Farms. We don't do shots. We don't allow that. We really don't. We do announce it in quarter pour. We're very professional about how we handle it. We have a lot to lose, and I carry $4 million liquor liability, and that's why I have been the bar service at the Small Lake Farms and many other venues locally. So I just find it, I don't feel it's essential. If it was open to the public, then possibly, but even for weddings, it's kind of deterrent. Having a police detail standing next to the bar, it's kind of uncomfortable for the bride and grooms.
Do we have any feedback from the police department about this event at all?
It's a requirement in the licensing regulations, so you would need to review your licensing regulations
But we
if
could
you want to
vote.
change it.
But we do have the ability.
You have the
We
ability to waive it, yeah.
It's within it. The question is whether or not,
It's always been there, but we've never enforced
It's
it or
just
never
this
had a
year. This year we've had
recommendation
it-
for it yet. Maybe, there's a new officer who's reviewing the licensing and they taking it to the letter, and that makes sense.
we've tightened a lot up in the past year in terms
Yeah.
of accountability and also looking at really the circumstances around where it's being served, it's how it's being served. So I certainly, an applicant can request it. I guess it's up to us as a board as to whether or not we want to take that step.
I personally don't see why they would need a police detail at a wedding reception. I mean,
It's not a good look.
or at the Wim Dinner
It's-
Series. I mean, it's not like it's a,
Well, put it this way, the wedding is
party.
on the 25th and the 1st and the preceding. We are now just hearing this, that a police detail is being required this year, and that's why we are asking for the waiver. Like I said, it's not exactly a big facility that, you can't miss a police detail. I mean, if we had any issues or concerns, we'd definitely come forth and say we feel there is a need for a police detail. These are guests, this is a closed event. These are, guests that are being invited by the bride and groom to their wedding. And some of them are only 90 people at an event, some are 150, some are tops 185. And even with that scenario, we never have had any issues. So,
based on the fact that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, based on the size and nature of the events and the fact that there's never been any issues in the past, I would make a motion that we grant this waiver.
I will second that.
So I think maybe if we
Is that
just,
an amendment?
well, I think if we make amendment to the motion to accept it formally, I think that'll
Sorry, can I
do
read?
it. Yeah, no problem.
Move that the Board of Selectmen, acting as licensing commissioners, approve the request of Butlers and Bars for a one-day all-alcohol license for a wedding at Small Lake Farms on May 25th from 4 to 10 p.m. And-
June 1 and June 29th.
Oh, and June 1st and June 29th, waiving the police detail requirement.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
I actually do have a ton more coming down the chain. I just only submitted those to get them started.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And I'm also here on behalf of Smolak for their whim dinners also. I don't know if I need to stand to be present for that.
Go ahead, take us through it quickly.
Okay. We're requesting 12 one-day liquor and wine malt licenses for whim dinners starting from June 12th, the 19th, the 26th, the 10th, the 17th, the 24th of July, the 31st, right through to August 28th. And then we do have a international festival on June 9th. And these are all wine and malt beverages only.
And you're looking to also have the police detail waived?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we grant the one-day malt and liquor, wine and malt licenses and waive the requirement for the police detail for the dates that were just reviewed.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate your help.
Thank you. Okay. And then kind of backing up, we've got a request from Merrimack College, and this is for 5 one-day licenses. I don't see anybody here from Merrimack speak to it, but it's for the senior barbecue at the Mac parking lot on May 16th from 4 to 8 p.m. The hooding reception at the Mac parking lot on May 18th from 5 to 10 p.m. The employee barbecue in the Mac parking lot on May 22nd from noon to 5. The reception at Cassia Hall on May 16th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. and a reception at Cassia Hall on May 22nd from 3 to 9 p.m. And I would just note, by the way, the reason why we're looking at one-day licenses here, if you recall, we did grant them licenses before on locations. So those are licensed. Any function that would be outside of those facilities would have to apply for one day. So that's why these are in front of us, because they're not within the defined licensed facilities that we previously approved.
So this parking lot will be like cordoned off
Yeah.
in some way, I assume?
Yeah, I went over and walked it this morning, literally out my back door. So, and deer, and deer. But what I do like, and you see in our package, they've, again, I think a big improvement over one day previously. They're telling us, giving us a diagram of the location, how it's served, how it's being managed. So I see that as a nice transparency and improvement in clarity and accountability.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen, acting as licensing commissioners, approve the request of Merrimack College for 5 one-day wine and malt licenses as presented, and to waive the requirement of a police detail.
Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, motion that we move out of licensing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Out of licensing.
Okay, next thing on our agenda is town manager's report. I think Lynn was going to share a few comments about upcoming retirement of Joyce Bradshaw as our.
So, Madam Chair, as you're all aware, that Joyce Bradshaw, our longstanding town clerk, will be retiring in July. And based on Massachusetts laws, you cannot go without having a town clerk, an acting town clerk, or even a present standing town clerk. So I would like to recommend someone to fill in as an acting town clerk in the interim once Joyce Bradshaw retires, because we won't have a new town manager on board at that time. I'm assuming we hopefully will have one hired, but I'd like it to leave it to the new town manager to interview and hire the town clerk for the town. And in that period of time, which will probably be about a month, maybe 2-month period of time, I'd like to recommend that we appoint Laurie Burzloff as the acting town clerk in the interim, so that we can continue on with the business that we need to and prepare for the new town manager to hire a town clerk.
Can I ask a question? If the interim town clerk, if we appoint Laurie as the interim town clerk, does that preclude her from applying for the job in a permanent fashion?
It does not.
Okay.
No, we checked into that.
Actually, this is your appointment, right?
Yes.
It's not the
Well,
board's.
This is informational.
It's
Yeah.
just informational. I would like to allow the new town manager to fill the positions, and especially these types of roles, and leave it up to him or her, whomever we hire,
Yeah.
I think to make that judgment.
That's kind and wise of you to do that.
I think that makes a lot of sense, since Lori is the head of administrative services, am I getting that right? And that the town clerk falls under that anyway, so it makes perfect sense for it to be her.
She
Yeah.
seemed to be the most ideal person to step into that. So this way, it will give us enough time between now and then that Laurie can work with Joyce Bradshaw to get a little bit more familiar in the process and the procedures that are going on down there, and what's coming up in the pipeline as far as, any elections or, and things like that.
Great.
We're just
Thank
trying to
you.
see how bare bones we can go with staff.
I know.
Everybody gets 2 hats.
Seriously.
Like I said, you have a few things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a few.
We'll see if
Okay.
we get an election lined up for you, Laurie. Might as well. What the heck, right?
Are there any other Nexus Selectmen comments and updates? Any other comments or points anyone wanted to make?
We'll see you at town meeting.
Happy Mother's Day to all those mothers in the room and watching on TV.
And happy Grandmother's Day to somebody. By the way, congratulations to Selectman Valancourt and his family. He is a first-time grandfather, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it's Richard III.
Wow.
They're very regal.
Very regal. And
Thank you.
pictures are adorable.
They say there's no love like a grandchild.
You could send them home. Spoil them and send them home. I bet you that's covered. I bet you and Kathy have got that covered.
Yeah.
Spoil them, yeah, or spoil him.
Thank you.
Any other comments or
Well,
updates?
Other than, unless I already missed it, maybe I did, sheep sharing. When's that? What's the date on
After
that?
town meeting.
It's
May 19th, yeah.
May 19th. Okay, so it's coming.
Okay. Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.